What actually is a memory leak? Well, computers have different sorts of memory. There's its long-lasting memory, like the stuff on your hard drive or your SSD, and accessing that is actually pretty slow. And then there's a much smaller chunk of fast memory, of RAM. That stands for random access memory. When a computer is actually doing anything, it's doing it with the data in RAM. And it's only at certain points writing that back to your hard storage. RAM just goes away when you're not putting power to it. That's why if you're playing a video game and you don't save, your progress is lost. Now, like I said before, RAM is comparatively small to the storage space that you have on a hard drive or SSD or something like that. That means that games are usually many times bigger than RAM. So you can't load an entire game into RAM. And the way that games get around this is they load only parts of the game into RAM, and you play those parts up until the point that you need a new part, and then you have a loading screen or something, and it loads something new into RAM. Newer games like God of War Ragnarok also might do this in the background while you're, walking on the branches of Yggdrasil. And in fact, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is doing that too. It's loading areas of the open world in the background as you walk around. So games only operate when they have the part that you are playing loaded into RAM. But to get new parts into RAM, it has to dump the old parts out of RAM. It basically has to free up that memory again and say, okay, you can load new stuff to this memory. A memory leak involves an error in that unloading process. Basically, every time the game rewrites something new to memory, there is a very, very tiny bit of it that it didn't free up again. And since that means that a game with a memory leak always reads this tiny bit as occupied space that it can't write in with a new part of the game, it now has less RAM to work with when it loads something new into RAM. And as it keeps doing that writing and dumping process, it will have less and less memory to work with until eventually it runs out. At which point, you will get memory corruption, crashes, stuff like that. Can memory leaks cause slowdown? Yes, especially if there's memory leaks in the memory that is used to, render the graphics. And since all RAM is completely dumped when you turn a computer off, that is one way to get a game treating the memory as if it is truly free again, thus increasing performance. But most of the handling of RAM is automatic these days. Game engines just do that for you, and you don't even have to think about how you're handling memory when you code a game. And most console firmware has fail-safes to prevent this from happening. This is why indie developers using game creation studios can make games without memory leaks easily. So that's why I'm skeptical about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet having a memory leak, because why are they manually coding how the memory behaves in the first place?